Aloha, everyone. My name is Rob Haak from the Hawaii Pacific Export Council, or HPEC. We are a nonprofit based in Honolulu with approximately 30 volunteer board members who are here to help you with any kind of exporting tasks that you may need. We're fortunate enough to receive a grant from DBET, who in turn receives a grant from SBA that allows us to put on this series of exporting and perform one-on-one company mentoring sessions. Today, I'm excited to have Kanzo Nara from the Imagine Web Creation and the I Do Web School. He is a fantastic speaker and extremely knowledgeable on the topic of multilingual websites, social media, multilingual e-commerce, and in the more modern sense, AI that can be used for helping our exporters. So I have here the agenda. First off, we're going to hear from Jamie Lum of DBET. She manages the international program there. And again, we're very thankful to Jamie and DBET for the grant that we received to put on this series of seminars. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jamie. I think you're muted.
Thank you, Rob. Let me share my screen here. Aloha, everyone. Mahalo to Rob for our program today, and to Kanzo Nara for being our speaker today. My name is Jamie Lum with the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism. And I just want to give a brief overview of our export development program that we call the HiSTEP, which stands for Hawaii State Trade Export Expansion Program. As Rob mentioned, the program is primarily funded through a grant that we received from the U.S. Small Business Administration. And it's an opportunity. It gives our Hawaii companies that have Hawaii-made products and as well as service companies to be able to sell worldwide. So we have three components of the program: our export readiness, our market entry and expansion activities, and our company assistance. And you also see here on this slide, we do work with many organizations to carry out the program, HPEC being one of them that puts on these series of these training webinars, as well as a number of our other partners that help companies that register for the program. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that all fits together. I'll talk about each of the components shortly, but these are the metrics that we're looking for as far as HiSTEP. We want to see expanded revenues for the state of Hawaii from exports of Hawaii produced goods and services. We're also looking to see an increased number of Hawaii companies that are expanding their sales and expanding their companies through global markets. And then lastly, we want to see more penetration of international markets with Hawaii goods and services. To be eligible for HiSTEP, you have to meet the federal definition of a small business, what SBA calls it, eligible small business concern. So basically, you have to fit the definition of a small business, which basically is a company that has 500 employees or less. So that would be most of the companies in the state of Hawaii. And there are other things that have to be in business for at least a year. And you also have to and this is through a self-certification. You also have to have a product or a service that is at least 51% US made. Now, for our HiSTEP, we do try to give preference to companies that meet that 51% Hawaii made. So that is something that we do also look at. You also have to make sure that you're not barred from receiving federal funds and that you are registered with the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, as well as our Department of Taxation. So those are the minimum requirements. As far as the components of the program, our first is our HiSTEP export readiness. And just as that title suggests, we are looking to make sure that companies, especially those that are brand new, and the program is open to companies that are new to export, as well as those that have already been exporting and maybe looking to expand. So we are looking to prepare companies for exporting. So topics like this, sessions like this are part of our export readiness, where we put on monthly sessions working with Rob and HPEC to have either export specific topics, such as our topic today, or we look at specific markets and what opportunities exist for Hawaii companies in various markets. We've looked at, in the past, we've looked at Japan, we've looked at Taiwan, we've looked at using the free trade agreement with Mexico and Canada, Australia, New Zealand. So a number of topics, again, to help give companies increase their knowledge of what they can expect when they decide that they want to start exporting. Also part of the export readiness is what our one-on-one business advising. And that's where we work with our partners. When a company registers for a HiSTEP, we will assign you to one of our partner organizations, and then you'll have at least one session with our partner organizations to do a little bit more of an intake on your company, find out a little bit more about where you're at in terms of exporting and what your needs are, and then they can suggest what you can do either through other activities within HiSTEP, or maybe there are other types of activities that your company may need to engage in before perhaps you may be ready for exporting. So that is all part of our export readiness. The second component is what we've renamed. We used to call it Hawaii Pavilions, which is more specific to trade shows, but we've renamed it Market Entry and Expansion Activities. That would include trade shows, that would include consumer shows, and also we have some e-commerce opportunities for companies. This is just an overview. If you actually go to our website, which is invest.hawaii.gov, it has a calendar of the activities that we have coming up for the year. So, but basically what we're trying to do is in terms of the trade shows and consumer shows is to give companies an opportunity to participate in these events and make it more affordable for companies to participate in these large trade shows. And then we also go into the show under the Hawaii umbrella. So we do have a Hawaii Pavilion. And so that really adds to the overall effort as companies come in under the Hawaii brand. It's really adds more, it's a more powerful presence, I guess you could say, in helping companies to attract distributors and buyers and partners through these trade shows. So that's the second component. And finally, our third component is our company assistance. And companies can apply directly for financial assistance to help you with your export activities. So part of this is to put together an export plan. That's part of the application process. It is a competitive process, so there's an evaluation committee that would look at each of these applications and evaluate them, etc. We actually have two categories where we have new to export category where companies that are new to export can apply for up to $5,000. And then companies that are market expansion or more experienced exporters can apply for up to $15,000. And if companies are awarded, then this is the funds are given to you on a reimbursement basis. So you have to come up and actually spend money up front first before you get any money. I will send to Rob a more expanded version of these slides, which go into a little bit more detail about the company assistance and the kind of activities that can be funded. But just in general, it can help to pay for airfare when you go to trade shows or go on any sales calls. It can pay for trade shows, and they don't have to be the trade shows that DBED is organizing. Can be used for any of the U.S. commercial service programs and services that they offer. It can be used for shipping sample products to potential buyers. So that's just kind of an overview. It can help you do website translations, e-commerce, digital marketing. So the time frame on that usually is that, so for 2024, we've actually already given out the awards, but usually we put out our applications in November, and then they're due in January. So you have about 2 months to complete it. So again, I'll send Rob a little more detailed version so that will give you more information. If you go to our website here, invest.hawaii.gov, under the exporting tab, you can get all of the information that I'm sharing with you right now. And this is where you would register for the program. Once you register, then, as I mentioned, then you would be assigned to one of the partners, do your business advising, and then you can participate in any of the other STEP activities that we have. So that's really a very brief overview. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put in the chat, or you can contact me, or you can contact Rob, who knows how to get in touch with me. But that's all I have right now. Thank you very much, Rob.
Thank you, Jamie. Excellent presentation. And yes, if anybody has questions, please put them into the Q&A section of Zoom. And before we move on to our speaker, I just wanted to share briefly the DBEDT exporting website, the HiSTEP website. As Jamie said, it's invest.hawaii.gov, and then there's this exporting tab here, and you can find the schedule of events and things that we're working on, the different trade shows that are under the HiSTEP pavilions, etc. Then this is the Hawaii Pacific Export Council website at hawaiiexportsupport.com. The event that you're attending right now is being recorded and will be uploaded here in a few days after I do some minor editing. But if you go to YouTube and just search for Hawaii Pacific Export Council, or use our YouTube channel name at HPEC, you'll find this channel, and there's a long-standing archive here of all kinds of events that we've done in the past. Just very quickly before I forget, here is Kanzo Nara's 2 websites. And that's Imagine Web Creation, and then the I Do Web School. He'll present that in much more detail in a few moments. Okay, with that, let's introduce Kanzo Nara. He's a speaker that we bring in at least once per year, because I found him to be extremely knowledgeable on the subject of multilingual websites, multilingual social media, e-commerce. He's originally from Hokkaido in Japan, has lived in Hawaii a very long time, and is bicultural, understands the situation on both sides of this part of the Pacific Ocean very well. And I think he's just a fantastic speaker on this subject. So I've asked him today to go into a little bit more detail than he normally does in some of our higher level introductory type e-commerce or social media presentations. So we'll get a little bit more into the weeds than we normally do if you've seen Kanzo speak before. And again, this video will make it onto our YouTube archive soon. And after the event, I'll send around a link to a Dropbox folder where everybody can access Kanzo's presentation, as well as the presentation that Jamie just gave. So with that, let me please introduce Kanzo Nara and thank him again for being with us. We always appreciate having him as a speaker. Please, Kanzo-san.
Thank you very much, Rob-san, for the kind introduction. Thank you, Jamie. Good to see you as always. To start off with, once again, my name is Kanzo Nara. I'm the president of Imagine Web Creation. As Rob mentioned, I've been in the States for about 25 years now, spending most of it here in Hawaii. I have been doing Imagine Web Creation, which is an IT consulting for multilingual web platforms, for 18 years now. So today's presentation will be based on my experience from dealing with one-man companies all the way up to large hotel-type corporations and what worked, didn't work. So I hope that this is useful for you. And as Rob mentioned, if you have questions, please go ahead and click the Q&A. We will be happy to answer your questions. And since today's presentation is going to be a bit long, please don't hesitate to ask questions during the presentation. I'm sure Rob will catch it and he'll stop me. So here we go. Okay, today's title is a multilingual website, social media, e-commerce trends for exporters. Okay, starting off with multilingual websites. First, we need to understand these two terminologies. One is multilingual and the second one is multi-regional. These are very different. Example is multilingual is if you're operating here in Honolulu, Hawaii, and you want to cater to, let's say, the Korean, Japanese, and Chinese market, that would be a multilingual website. But let's say you're catering towards Japanese living in London, then that would be a multi-regional target. So you wanna specify which multilingual direction you'll be taking. So just like any website, websites are always constructed from domains. So when you're doing a domain for a multilingual website, there are a lot of do's and not do's. I like to cover them step by step. The first one is the most popular one, which I'm sure most of you already have for your company, which is a .com. When you go to other countries, you might see other structured URLs, such as Japan would have .co.jp. This is for corporation in Japan. Or there are add-on domains, which is the third one, which is you can keep your .com, but add the name in the front of your domain. Okay, this is directly from developers google.com. This is pros and cons of the domains for multilingual websites. The first one is a country-specific domain. This is what they recommend. So if you're targeting China, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, Singapore, whatever, you want to make sure that you have an entirely separate website with the suffix for that specific country. This tells search engines that your website is geo-targeting that specific country. So when people search for it, they find it. You will notice that large companies do this, especially companies like auto manufacturers like Toyota or Mercedes-Benz, because each website has a different product category and different pricing too. So it helps consumers in their country find the proper website they're looking for. The second one is a subdomain with geo-targeting. This is the one in the second one that says jp.example.com. This is a good way to go if you want to work off the same server using the same domain and kind of control costs a little bit. You still have to create a separate website, but it's good for a branding sense in case you can't get the .jp or .ko or .zh that you're looking for. So this is still a viable option to go with a subdomain. The third one, ironically, which is most used, is something that you should try to stay clear from. So looking at the bottom example, that would be example.com/jp. This, according to Google and search engines, it's not a separate website. So it counts the website as the same website. And what the search engine robot does is when it scrolls through your site, it picks up all the language characters. And let's say if you're working with Japanese, it is going to get disregarded because the English character count is always going to be higher than the Japanese count. And you can also, there's another demerit for this is when you want to advertise using pay-per-click such as Google Ads in a specific country, you cannot use this subdirectories. Your top domain needs to be present. So this is the reason why they recommend option 1, country-specific domain, and option 2, which is subdomains. So if you already have a subdirectory, which a lot of the customers that come to me, they already have a subdirectory, we need to start working by redirecting your old site and going the proper channel, which is a country-specific domain or a subdomain. Okay, now that we've established a clear definition of your URL for your specific country, we will dive into what approaches we have for your e-commerce. It can be broken up into 3 types when we're talking about e-commerce. The first one is having your own website. This obviously has the most maintenance and component parts to it, but it also gives you the highest flexibility of freedom to do what you want to do with your website. The second one is third-party systems. These are very beneficial because they already work off of a large platform. So a lot of the setup is already done for you. We will go into more detail in the next page. And of course, the very popular one are online markets like Amazon and Rakuten, which already have a huge consumer base. So it is easier to get your product known by people. Okay, first one, this is setting up your own website. So this day and age, most companies already have your website, but when it comes to e-commerce, there's a whole nother level of modules and systems and security you need to get. Obviously, you need to get the correct hosting that is compatible with e-commerce. You need to choose a platform for your website or the e-commerce system, such as WordPress or WooCommerce. Installing the actual shopping cart, and this will depend on what type of service you have, whether it's products, downloads, digital content, so on. SSLs exist on most hosting servers, but when you're dealing with e-commerce, there's credit card transactions. So a lot of times to get compliance, you would have to purchase a more higher level SSL. You need to select a credit card merchant processing center. There are a lot of them out there. And I know being here in the US, there's a couple prominent ones that people are comfortable with. You've probably worked with ones like SquareUp and things like that. But when you go into the international market, a lot of these aren't compatible. So you need to find a credit card merchant company that has compatible for the country you are trying to sell your product in. And this one, the next one is the most difficult one, is getting compliance for credit card payment. So even though you get the credit card, you sign up for a credit card merchant center, you still need to be compliant with your server and the credit card center to actually start taking credit cards. They're very strict now, and when you do international transactions, the compliance standard gets even higher. Next one is shipping calculations. I know HiSTEP has another seminar where they go into more logistics. So but it is important to have this component into your website. And when you're building it, it's good to have a good base of how you're going to ship and how you're going to calculate this. And I know this is probably covered in the logistics part again, but there's a harmonized system code, or the HS code, which is used for customs. And a lot of products, it's very difficult to determine what product your HS code falls under. So this is, but it's important to do. I have customers of mine who don't pay attention to this, and they start getting good sales, and all of a sudden, one of their customers saying that I have a customs agent in front of my door and I need to pay taxes. So you want to make sure you get the right HS code so your customers uh, uh, don't run into problems when they actually do purchase your product. Okay, second one is a third-party system. This refers to sites like Shopify or Wix, which are platforms specifically focused on online commerce. They're a very good way to go if you want a easy startup. If you don't want to spend too much time in pre-production development and a lot of costs. The only downside is there's not much customization you can do with design or how your e-commerce works. Like if you want to have a survey at the end of somebody purchasing your product, or you want people to log in prior to purchasing, they need to become a member. There's a lot of things you might want for your specific product or service you're performing, but when you go through these third-party systems, they're already kind of predefined for you. There are some options you can get, but you kind of work within their parameters. So you want to keep that in mind when you go this route. The third one is the most popular one in any industry pretty much right now, are the online markets. When we're talking about the US, it's Amazon. In Japan, it might be Yahoo or Rakuten. These are good because obviously they have a huge base of consumers that already exist. And they have well-defined categories that help promote your product within that category, whether it's electronics, clothing, beauty products, and so on. And they have setups for tax license and local businesses and so on. The number one benefit of going to online markets this day and age is having the fulfillment centers. So in the case of Amazon, that would be Amazon Prime. So when you list your product on there, if your customer is an Amazon Prime, they get free shipping and they get it really fast. I know living here in Hawaii and I guess Alaska too, we kind of fall a little bit outside that parameter. It might take us 3 days to get it, but if you're in central part of Japan, or let's say in LA, if you order this, you can get it within 24 to 36 hours, which is really convenient. And a lot of people want their product as soon as possible. Okay, this is a top online markets in Japan for 2023. There's predictions for 2024 out now, but we're going to stick with 2023. The number one, which is unusual because Rakuten has been always number one. Amazon Japan is starting to do a lot better than Rakuten. It is at $626 million of revenue per year. Rakuten at 535. Mercari is in the top 5 now. They just went over 100 million last year. And the last guy is Yahoo Shopping at $118.2 million. And we will see how this compares worldwide at another graph. Okay, now I'd like to jump in to talk about website design and what you want to do for different countries. So in the case of Japan, this kind of falls under Korea and China and Taiwan as well, is a lot of the content is very heavy content. And the reason this is because they use Chinese characters and you get to condense your content. So you can have a lot of information on there. And when people are reading, you kind of skim off the Chinese characters and understand what's being said a lot easier than reading a sentence in English. So this is the reason content becomes heavy, and I'll show you examples of how this looks on an actual website. Banner ads are still very popular. We don't see this in the US very much, but basically they're text within pictures that explain what the ad is about. So it's like looking at an advertisement in a magazine, which is in a website. These are called banner ads. And if you look at Rakuten actually allows you to post your products in a banner ad format. So you can see products that you see the actual product, but then you see a model holding it and then drinking a cup of coffee while pouring sugar inside. Amazon forbids this, but Rakuten allows you to do that, even though you're only selling a mug cup for coffee. So it's a very interesting market when you look into banner ads. Once again, we'll go into more detail of how these visually look. Okay, I'm going to take a few website designs that are international and multilingual. First one, we're looking at McDonald's USA. Their website is very clean, white background. You have 2, 4, 6 navigations at the top, one header image, and then, Free McNuggets Now is their header section. And then you have 2 paragraphs of information, and that's it for the front section. Okay, going to another website from a different country. This is India's McDonald's. It gets even more simpler. It just has a splash page and it tells you where to go if you're in Northeast India or West South India. So very simple page. Okay, moving on to the next design. Here we go. This is the Japanese web design for McDonald's Japan. And I'm not sure if you can tell from the screen, but what this top part is, this is a banner ad, which is also a slideshow. So it rotates to the left. And you can tell that on the bottom that we're on the second slide right now. This first Big Mac picture actually has 3 banners within the first slide. Then it even has detailed information at the bottom or campaign information for the specific Big Mac that's 550 yen. Then you can see kind of in the right-hand side where it says from June 8th, and there's more specials. And this slide. So this is a lot of banner ads and a lot of information that pops up to a user right off the bat. Very different compared to the India one or the US one. So when you're designing your multilingual website, you need to keep this in mind. Your consumers, target audience are most likely accustomed to a certain type of information that they get. And by doing this, you can greatly increase your conversions and also UI, user experience of that website. Okay, this is an example I like to bring up. This is international branding while we're talking about design. The left one is very familiar for us. This is the Red Cross. But due to cultural and historical reasons, the Red Cross in the Middle East has the crescent moon. So even when it comes to logo, you're not safe with just advertising your logo. Your logo could be something that isn't what it's supposed to mean in that country. So you need to, talk to a specialist, somebody who understands that culture, so your website is more accepted by the people in your target audience. Okay, now that we have a website set up, we're going to go into marketing. Okay, marketing, we're going to break this up into 3 parts again. First part is pay-per-click or paid advertising. The second part is search engine optimization or organic advertising. This is something you can do internally in-house. And the third one is social network, SNS, which has become a very popular part of our culture right now. Okay, this is e-commerce sales by country comparison to 2022 and 2023. 2022, we saw the peak of COVID, people staying home, spending a lot more time online. In 2023, 2024, we're seeing the numbers come down, but 2024 is kind of keeping the same pace as last year. So this is the difference of what's happening right now. China is at 1.5 trillion during COVID, but now we're down to 1.3 million. United States is at 727 billion. Japan decreased actually almost 50%, down to 132 billion. UK from 143 to 111. South Korea, similar to Japan, almost down 50% compared to 2022. We're at 64 billion. And India from 97 to 56. France from 96 to 65. And Indonesia is 59 to 34. For Japan and Korea, one of the large reasons for this is a big commute type country. So people commute. Your day begins at the train station and it ends at the train station. So a lot of times people will walk by the stores they need to go to anyway. So countries that are less car oriented might have a larger decrease compared to the COVID period because they're already walking past their stores. So, and we will go into that more when the advertising time information. Okay, this is the global spending for e-commerce internationally. The data is from Statista. They have a lot of interesting information if you're interested. So I have been doing this seminar with Rob for about, I think, 6 or 7 years now. So starting in 2018, when we did this same seminar in 2018, we were saying that the global spending was at $2.9 trillion globally. Just within this short period of time, up to 2023, we're up to $5.7 trillion. It has almost increased. So while we're seeing some plateauing after COVID, the international spending on e-commerce continues to grow. Okay, so we're going into the first tool of marketing, which everybody is familiar with now, search engine optimization. A lot of the websites already have a lot of general SEO added to there. But this is good because organic searches they're cheaper in the long run. You have to invest time and effort at the beginning. But if you have a good SEO plan for your company, your website, this pays off in the long run. So having keywords that are appropriate for your website page combinations, content is key. And what I mean content is a lot of times people tend to fixate on how my website looks, what the design is. Oh, I like that video there. But ironically, the search engines use search engine robots that read your site's content. And unfortunately, even with AI, it cannot read videos or images as well as it can text content. So having quality content is key for success to your website. The third part is frequency. Just because you make a brand new website and you add all this new content, after that, if your website just stays the same for like 9 months or 12 months, the search engine is going to determine like, oh, you haven't updated anything in a while. And frequency is also very important. SEO, there are no shortcuts, unfortunately. I have been doing this for 20 years, almost 20 years now. There was a lot of interesting techniques back in the early 2000s, like link building, link farms. People remember this. You used to be able to pay a website to create links for you all over the web, And I know some countries still have link farms going, like in a lot of Russian companies, you can buy links for like $2 a link, and they will create 200 links for you all over the place. Unfortunately, this method does not work anymore. So there is no shortcuts there for link building. Social media. Well, social media is content within that platform. Search engines such as Yahoo, Bing, or Google does not pick it up as well as it does website content. The reason being is that it doesn't operate off of a dedicated IP address like your website URL is. So it's like a very crowded space where people are talking in a big chat room, but your website is a single building that has a structure and a dedicated IP address. So you get better content picked up by search engines. Another myth that sometimes my customers get confused with is my website ranking. I was #1 yesterday and I don't see my website today. What's happening? Unfortunately, there is no more rankings that exist. They're personalized searches. So Rob and I could be searching for the same restaurant here in Honolulu, but his search engine result will be different than mine. When we type in Juicy Burger Honolulu, we'll find a different burger joint every single time. This is based on our age, gender, even income, our search histories. So you should stop forgetting about, oh, I need to be #1. There is no #1 anymore. Okay, so SEO and how to succeed. There's a lot of elements. There's not just this, but this is the three main ones. If I can, provide advice on this, is one, you should definitely write a business blog on this. The reason being is each blog post is going to be like your advertisement for almost forever. So when you write a blog, let's say 1700 to 1800 characters in a specific language, and you focus on a keyword topic, you're going to get maybe 50 to 100 hits on that blog when you publish it. And then after that, you can get about 5 to 10 people after that. But these 5 to 10 are going to continue almost indefinitely. So if you have a good blog that you keep on doing this, you can see how the advertising effect will keep on playing. Versus pay-per-click is you might be paying $2 for a pay-per-click to get one user, but this blog will generate 5 to 10 people for you indefinitely. And this also kind of falls into the scheduled update section. Is search engines usually come to your website about 3 to 4 weeks. So you should at least update something once a month. So when the search engine comes, they pick up the new content and say, oh, this website's being increased more. If you're a really giant website, like I've done the website for Yellow Pages Hawaii, which it was a humongous content website that they were updating websites all the time. They were getting their website scrolled twice a day. If you look at, let's say like the New York Times, these guys actually get their website scrolled every 2 hours by Google. So whenever they post new content, people get it sooner. A lot of times people will post information on a blog, and unfortunately they're talking about something 3 weeks or 4 weeks ahead, and let's say they were only scrolled a couple days ago. That blog is not going to get picked up by anybody because it's not on the search engine yet. So third one is submitting your site. You need to submit your site, and then also you need to submit your blogs whenever you post something new. Once you start getting a good scheduled update, Google will visit your site more frequently, and you don't have to worry about it as much. So this is very important if you have a promotional campaign. I know here in Hawaii, we're very fluctuated on the seasonality of tourists. So that's very important. People shopping for Golden Week, they're shopping right now in Japan. So if you post something today, it's probably not going to get picked up in Yahoo or Google. So keep that in mind when you schedule your updates. Okay, next one is keywords. This kind of falls into Korean and Chinese as well because they use different letterings, and I'll use Japanese as an example. So Japanese use kanji, which is Chinese characters. They use hiragana, and then they use katakana, which is used for a lot of abbreviations or conversions from translations from foreign words. And depending on the word you're using, you need to know which one to use. And this is kind of hard to determine if you're not a native speaker, and even harder when you're trying to find a IT person who is really bilingual, because some bilingual IT people may speak the language, but they might not be proficient in the reading and writing. Even bilinguals here in Honolulu, or let's say in Japan, who attend like international school, have a background in international school, they are not taught these Japanese, Chinese, or Korean characters. I'll give you an example for Japanese education. Japanese public education, if you complete it, you are taught 1,900 characters of Chinese characters for Japanese public school. If you attend Chinese public schools, you know about 4,000 Chinese characters. So there's no way that international school or somebody who uses Google Translate can keep up to that, to obtain that quality of proficiency when it comes to reading and writing, and especially keywords. These keywords kind of change with time too. They use different abbreviations, or they add a tiny I in between and things like that. So when it comes to keywords and trends, you want to make sure your IT specialist or your marketing people are bilingual and proficient in reading and writing. Okay, the next one is advertising in PPC for Japan, Korea, or China. you want to focus on, I want to talk a lot about kind of time here. You know, time is very different than how it is for web users here in the US. You know, here in the US, let's say, you know, you're taking a coffee break, you have your smartphone out, you're searching for where am I going to go on vacation next. That's okay. That's kind of accepted here. But in Japan, it's very strict. You have computers and companies that prohibit you from going out to websites like Yahoo or Google unless it's for research purposes. And then they tell you to use a different IP address or VPS, things like this. So when you're advertising in Japan, it can't just be 24 hours a day because a lot of times you're not getting to the right market. So you want to focus what time of day you're going to advertise. I'll go into the time of day a little bit more. Next one will be location and region. Even for like Japan, China, and Korea, like the two biggest location region differences I like to take with my customers are usually metropolitan area or like rural countryside. Their lifestyle and how they look at the web is very different. So depending on what your target is, you want to kind of focus on one of them. Gender and age are pretty straightforward. Now you can actually incorporate income. This is a projection done by AI and search results, and Facebook has a lot more defined information. But if you're selling real estate here in Honolulu and you have a real estate website, this might come in handy, you know, compared to selling something that's $1.99 download type of product. LPO will be landing page optimization. So depending on where they're looking, are they going to be on their smartphone or are they going to be at a desktop? Load time. Luckily for us, Japan, China, and Korea, even Taiwan, Singapore, they have a lot faster internet than us. So we don't have to worry too much about that. But sometimes web pages can get kind of overloaded. We do too much to it, and we have a good page, but it takes forever to load. So you want to keep that in mind and don't get overzealous when you make a page. Okay, I know everybody has seen this, but this is what your paid advertisement will get you on Google. At the very beginning, you can see, you know, you type in Hawaii Hotel as a search, Expedia pops up at the beginning, and you can see the big AD information at the left. So this is a paid search. And depending on the keyword, this will cost Expedia 90 cents or $5. I've seen the highest keyword I've seen was $92 per click. And this is a lot more fun when I can ask the audience to guess what the keyword was. It was private detective affair research. So people who are looking for private detectives have to pay $90 per click. It's not the consumer, it's not the person looking for, but the private detectives need to advertise their website on Google and pay $90 per click for customers to come into their website. It's a very highly exclusive niche keyword. This is a quick run through of how the pay-per-click works. How it works is you choose a category and then keyword that's relevant to your industry, product, service. Then you set your budget. This could be a daily budget or a monthly budget. And then as you're running your campaign, you try to optimize your money, you know. So what we do is we specialize in optimizing online campaigns by doing things like the time of day, different keywords. Instead of paying expensive one keywords, we will break that keyword down into 12 different keywords that are 1/10 of its price and try to get hits for you, things like that. So this keeps on getting more sophisticated as we go along. And AI is now coming into Google ads since last year, in the middle of last year. So there's a lot of AI settings that you need to do to your campaign to have it optimized for your advertising. Okay, next one will be social media advertising. Who are your customers? So advertising on social media, the biggest benefit compared to Google Ads is all your users are already logged into this platform. They're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. A lot of them are already logged in. And this gives you a lot of information because when you're logged in, before you log in, you create a user account. You have your gender, you have your age, a lot of times date of birth, uh, based on your shopping experience or your education level. They have all this information on there. And so you can target when you're advertising on social media a lot more pinpoint compared to Google Ads. You can even break down what kind of hobbies they're into, like travel, eating, shopping, networking, gardening, information like that, and even job. You can advertise people who work at the government, or you can advertise people who are self-employed. Very interesting subcategories. And I also like to mention that one of the newest advertisings that is becoming very effective now is online radio, such as Spotify. The reason for this is you can't skip radio advertisements. They don't allow you to skip and just go to the song you want to listen to or the podcast you're listening to. It's required that you listen to, compared to like YouTube, where you see an ad pop up, you can just click on the skip button, it takes you to the content. But the online radio one, you cannot skip. And interestingly, a lot of the government or the Census Bureau was very effective with this a couple years ago when they were doing the census here in the US, advertising in different languages on online radio, saying that the Census Bureau website is up. Please go ahead and submit your information. And it was very successful because the Census Bureau had the highest rate of data input ever in their history. So it can be very effective. So depending on what buttons or what market you want to do, it's an interesting place to explore and find out where your fan base is. Okay, so even though we want to advertise or spend more time on social media, it's important to understand which country or which region you're in and what apps or platforms are the most popular. So this is a comparison of global versus Japan. In Japan, the number one app, social media app, is Line at 96 million. And globally, it's at Facebook. But if you look at Japan, Facebook is all the way down to number 5. YouTube is number 2, which coincides with the global one. Twitter is still very popular in Japan at number 3. Instagram at number 4. You have Facebook number 5, and then TikTok. So just comparing it to like the global one, the trends are very different depending on your country, whether it's Taiwan, Korea, or China. And depending on your audience, this also goes not just what's popular, but you need to break down the age group and possibly the gender of your consumer audience. Because when you develop your social media, you're going to spend a lot of time and energy building up your followers, your fan base, your content. So before you just say, hey, I use Facebook, so everybody must use Facebook, I'm just going to start posting in Facebook, and then a year goes by and you notice that your audience really doesn't even look at Facebook in that country. So you want to make sure you tap into the right social media platform before you start investing your time and content while building up your fan base. Okay. And this has become very common knowledge to this day now, but more than 83% of people do their preliminary search on their phones. Even their secondary search is over 70% on the phone. When it comes to your tertiary search, the third time you search for something, then finally it goes down to about 52% on your smartphone, 48% on desktop. So it's very interesting how that works. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we want to make sure when we're advertising, when are our web users looking for content, looking for information, looking for products. So web users in Japan are quite different than web users here in, I'm going to say Northern America, not so much Hawaii, Northern America. They're very different. Number one is they're in transit a lot of times. A lot of people commute. If you take the central part of Japan, Tokyo, Kanagawa, and Chiba, this is 3 prefectures right in the middle of Japan. Just alone there, you have 30 million people living, which is 1/5 of the Japanese population living in these 3 tiny prefectures, and all of them commute during this 2-hour short period in the morning. Then they get to a job that's very strict, that doesn't let them look at Facebook or Instagram. They have to go to the bathroom to do their, line chat and things like that. So when you're going to advertise or when you're going to publish information, is you want to catch them while they're going to work and when they're coming home from work. That's the first one. And you need to determine when they're going to be going to work. The second one is, this one's pretty easy. When they're having lunch, obviously they have free time to search for stuff. The first transit and the second lunch one is going to be smartphones. Almost close to 90-95% is going to be smartphone searches. So you want to make sure you have a landing page that's optimized and is clean, and you have good information that's fast and easy to read. In the evening is actually when a lot more e-commerce purchasing, conversions happen more in the evening. So you might research what you're looking for in the morning. You're going to dive into it more during the lunchtime. Then in the evening, you're going to come home. You're going to open up your computer. A lot of times, my wife doesn't even do that. She just stays on her smartphone. But when you want more information, you open up your laptop, because you get a bird's eye view of the websites. So you get more information. And then in the evening, a lot of times you take out your credit card and you're going to purchase. So you want to understand that you advertise in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon, and your big time conversion is going to happen in the evening a lot of times. And I know I mentioned landing pages a lot in this presentation right now. There's a 2-second rule. There's a 2-second rule on your smartphone compared to desktops and how you looked at websites maybe 7, 8, or even 10 years ago. If you found a good page on your laptop 10 years ago, you would go to the navigation at the top and you'd be like, oh, they have different products, they have this, and you kind of look around to see what other stuff they have. But now on Google, on your smartphone, if you click on a web page, if the information is not there, you're going to go back to Google. Then you're going to go to your competitor. They're going to go to your competitor. So you want to make sure you have 2 seconds to grab the attention of the user, and you want to say what's important within 2 swipes. Your page can be longer than 2 swipes, but you want to make sure that the information that they clicked in Google is found within 2 swipes. So make sure you have good landing pages that follow these 2-step rules, 2 seconds and 2 swipes. And the reason for the 2-swipe is people are busy. And when you're riding the train with 200 people breathing down your neck, you don't have much time to be browsing stuff. So you want to make sure you find the information quick. Okay, we're kind of getting, to where we want to go now for your conversions and your goals. So we have a website, we have an online shopping system platform. People can check out in multi-currencies. We're advertising, our site's up and running. We're getting some business going. But now we want to maximize our business. We want to do better. We want to find out how to increase sales. This is where analytic data comes in. So we have our SEO, our organic traffic, and then we have our pay-per-click advertising. You want to understand the difference between the two and how much money or product you're selling at the end of the day. So SEO, you still have the initial time invested in SEO, but after the second month, you can consider it free. You might only get 5 or 10 people for that, let's say one blog or that one keyword, but it's not costing you anything. Versus pay-per-click, you might get 800 people clicking on one keyword, but you might not be converting that 800 people into sales. So you want to understand what's going on here, what you're paying for, and what the organic search is doing, and how the conversion is turning out. And the analytics it keeps on getting more and more sophisticated, complicated, especially last year when Google rolled out their new analytics GA4, which came out it came out in the beginning of last year, but it was implemented full time in July. So in case you have a website and you haven't updated your Google Analytics, you should probably contact your webmaster to make sure that transition was made correctly, because if you have old data on there, you want to migrate it to make sure you're not losing it. The door frame for migration is closing up pretty soon, and I think you might lose your old analytics if you haven't made the migration. Okay, so most people who have an e-commerce has probably already taken a look at Google Analytics. The two important things here is you want to set goals and you want to count conversions. So just because you're making a sale, just because you get an email saying that somebody purchased your product, it doesn't mean that you're getting real conversions. You want to make sure that there are different conversions and you set different goals. Like sometimes a goal could be just downloading a PDF or subscribing to your newsletter or inquiring through the online form or using the chatbot. That could be a goal too. So not every sale is just a conversion. You can still interact with your customer base and create goals to see where they're at and what are they interested in for that final push to actually make the sale happen. So setting goals in analytics is a good place to start that and kind of gauge interaction with this. Okay, these are some tips on globalization for e-commerce. So if we're just running here in the US, you probably already have this covered, but if you're going to do international, you want to kind of tap into a couple of these. The biggest one is currency converter. I'm going to tell you straight off the bat, this is very difficult to accomplish. Depending on the platform you're using and the website you have, sometimes your merchant service doesn't allow any other currencies except the US. So, but it's nice to have. It greatly increases your conversion if you offer currency in their country, especially now that, like, if you look at Japan, the yen is doing so bad right now that people still want to buy Hawaii products, but they want to make sure they're not, spending too much based on the currency. A lot of these currency converters kind of take a good parameter of what the exchange rate is, and they give them a semi-real time, within 6-hour time frame of what their yen is purchasing power is towards the dollar right now. So it's nice to have. It makes the user feel that they're being catered towards. Okay, next one is language support. You can obviously have a website in a lot of different languages, but it's nice to have like a contact form or interaction place where people can contact you in their own language, even if you don't have the capability of responding right away. What you can do is use services like my company to help you out with translation of these inquiries that come in. There's chat features. And also when people contact you, this is very true for like Japan and Korea market. This is an example on the left-hand side of what the contact form looks like. And here in the US, a lot of times you have your name, email address, and then contact us. But when you go to Japan and Korea, you're going to see these long contact forms. And they ask you for your name, your gender. Sometimes they even ask you for your age, which I don't think is legal here in the US, but you can do that for, market purposes in Japan. And the good thing about this is they want to get to interact with their customer right away if they're looking for something, if it's a service-based industry. So the more information you gather for them, let's say if you don't have information, you might do 8 different emails back and forth with them to try to get all their information. But if you have a well-structured form in that language, a lot of times you probably convert that into a sale right away because they already filled out all the necessary information to do business with you. So it's a good thing to have is these detailed forms in different languages. This is some information on how much people tolerate different languages. So they tolerate mixed languages, 67%, 65% prefer it in their own language, pretty straightforward. Will not buy if it's in their other language, 40%. But this one's actually pretty high. They want reviews in their own language, it's 73%. So this is something you might want to build up on right away when you start doing multilingual, is reaching out to people who purchase from you to leave reviews in their language. Okay, this is a new portion of our presentation that I'd like to go into, is the artificial intelligence that we can use to help our multilingual websites and also our e-commerce. You know, AI is out there, there's a lot of tools out there, but it's still kind of hard to plug it into your website and make it work the correct way. Okay, the first one is, you know, you want to automate your workflow. And what I mean by this is, you know, your website is a store. There's things you need to do. You know, you need to restock your stock information in your batch report. You might send, you know, newsletters to people, or like I was mentioning before with the reviews, you want to reach out to them to do a review. This was all done by humans, which, you know, it's probably going to be done by humans for a couple more years. But this all can be done with AI now if you know how to set it up. Two important keywords from this section today is triggers and recipes. So you can set up a recipe that is triggered when somebody subscribes to your newsletter, or you can set up a recipe that triggers when somebody purchases your product. So example, going back to the review one, sure, somebody purchased your product, your service. You can set up a recipe that says 3 days after they purchase, it'll send them an automated email saying, did you like your product? How was it? Please leave us a review. Instead of doing this manually, you can try to automate this information. Even with website newsletters, a lot of times the website and the blog kind of falls into the same, but a lot of times, you know, you write a blog. After you write a blog, you want to post that information on Instagram, you want to go to Twitter, you want to post it on Facebook. If you create the correct recipe, once you post it on your blog and the AI will do this automatically and post it. This is especially important if you're doing multilingual, because a lot of times you're going to have a different channel for that language, for Japanese, Chinese, or Korean. And, you know, it's hard enough doing it for one language in English. Think about doing this in different languages, you know. But if you have your automation and your AI recipes set up at the beginning, operating your website gets a lot more easier, and you have a good foundation of expanding your website. The bigger it gets, the easier it's going to get. So you want to look at or consult with the IT consultant to see what kind of AI platforms you want to plug into your site, or what kind of AI recipes you want to have created. Okay, this is nothing new. You know, chatbots have been around for quite a few years now, and you see it on a daily basis. But what the AI chatbot does, it takes it to another level. You know, first one is obviously its multilingual capability, which is very nice. You can offer customer support real time for a language you do not speak, which is very good when you're having an e-commerce site. It can improve response time, and this is especially good if you have some kind of technical difficulty. You know, if somebody ordered your product and it's not arriving to them and it's taking time, you know, the chatbot can, you know, try to talk to that person. And just by having somebody interact with the user, you can decrease your complaints and have a happier customer. The point I want to emphasize on the chatbot is this is not something you can just kind of stick in your website and turn on. It's just kind of like a puppy dog. You know, you got to train it. You got to teach it how to sit, and you do all the tricks and stuff. But you have to be patient. So there is a training period you have to teach your AI chatbot to do. If you put in an empty chatbot, it's not going to respond well to your industry or your website very much. So by having an IT specialist train your chatbot specifically for your website, it will interact with your customers a lot faster, a lot sooner, and give them more accurate information that will greatly increase your website's usability. Next one is AI content creation. I know ChatGPT last year was big news for everybody, and I know most people probably already have a ChatGPT account and played around with it. ChatGPT is not for asking if you have a good joke for today. This was made for a chatbot actually. So it's for chatting. So you can create content if you know how to chat with the chat GPT AI the proper way. And we have actually taken this at Imagine Web Creation to the next level where we bring ChatGPT into your website. If your website is talking about Hawaiian coffee, we can tell ChatGPT to work off of your database. And next time you want to write a blog, you actually just have to type in 2-3 sentences and tell ChatGPT to generate a blog based on your past content. It'll create content for you within seconds. Then you can improve it. You can translate it into different language. You can add a different tone to it. This comes very difficult when you're doing a different country, because being kind of a jokester, happy feel here in the US might be impolite if you're talking in an India market. So you can adjust the tone of your content. And this all works off of your database in your website. So this is very interesting AI features that can greatly help improve your site and help you a lot when you're doing multilingual websites. Takes off a lot of burden. Okay. Lastly, I'd like to go over some trends that will be for 2024. Multimedia experience has just been exploding in the past couple of years, not in the past several years. One big factor was COVID really bumped this up. In 2020, we had people spending an average of 8.5 hours on their devices. Now it's gone down to 6.5 hours, but that's pretty high. I mean, considering you work 8 hours a day and you sleep for maybe 6 or 7 hours, you're spending the same amount of time looking at your devices. So multimedia experience on your website, whether it's a TikTok feed, YouTube channels, cool slideshow, museums with 3D galleries to see how it looks like inside, even your store gallery. These multimedia experiences are not going away. You definitely want to invest in this to have your UI experience go up. Companies like Kia that make cars, they have a very good website for doing this multimedia experience. Is you can actually build your own car on the website. You can change the color, you can change the seats, you can get different steering wheels, you can change the rims. You can add all these options, and it'll tell you how much the car costs at the end. Then at the end, you can just make an appointment with your dealer, which brings me to the next section. You want to complete transactions. When it comes to e-commerce, this is pretty straightforward. You're selling a product, somebody buys it. That's the completion of the transaction. But some websites, when it comes to be a service or appointment-based, sometimes it's not as clear. You use the contact form, you ask when they're available, you might go do a couple rounds of email, and it might take some time. It might take 24, 36 hours before that customer actually, puts their credit card in and books your service. So you want to make sure you can complete the transaction. One good way of doing this is you want to come up with a flow chart of how your website, you want it to go, how you want your customers to interact with you, and define a clear goal of where they should go. And you want to have a couple of these, not just, by service. Each service will probably have a different way the user was going to reach that final destination or final goal. Okay, this is kind of similar to the first one and also taps into the pay-per-click, but video marketing, advertising within YouTube has become a very popular method. But you can still skip it, but you can also make ads that are short enough that it's supposed to be skipped. And this is going to blow your mind on how many people use YouTube, but we got 2.49 billion people that use YouTube. Bigger than any TV channel ever existed. So when we're thinking about conventional advertising, and I used to be on primetime advertising, YouTube is the place you want to be. And but one of the not benefits, but plus side of COVID was you had a lot of people staying home, which developed a new demographic for YouTube users. The baby boomers and Gen X exponentially started using YouTube during the COVID period, and now they like it. They're there to stay. So you have a larger demographic than you did 5 years ago when you want to advertise with YouTube. Okay, that wraps it up for me today. Let me just kind of quickly summarize what I do. Imagine Web Creation has been around since 2006. We offer seminar training, web design, obviously bilingual, multilingual web design, multilingual marketing. We educate staff and team members, and we consult in IT. And thank you very much. Mahalo. Arigatou gozaimasu. Back to you, Rob-san.
Excellent presentation, as always. Thank you very much. I really like the detail that you went in here. If anybody has any questions, please type them in the Q&A. Otherwise, you can email Kanzo-san directly with his contact information here. And as I said, after I edit this video slightly, I'll upload it to the YouTube channel. And I will send around an email that has a link to that video, but also a link to the Dropbox where this presentation and Jamie Lum from DBEDT's presentation as well. So with that, I'll close out this session and notify you that our next session is exporting of agricultural products from Hawaii. That's on May 23rd at 3 p.m. So please register for that. And thanks again to Jamie Lum from DBEDT and of course Kanzo Nara from Imagine Web Creation and I Do Web School. Mahalo and arigato, Kanzo-san, and everyone, thanks for attending, and we'll see you soon. Have a wonderful day. Aloha.
Okay. Goodbye.